First, we start with a quadratic equation in the standard form. We have the square term, then the x, and then the constant. Next, we take the coefficient of x squared and the constant along with the sign, multiply them together, and we get 2 times -9 equals -18. We look at the different ways in which we can factor -18. One, of course, is 2 times -9. We also have -2 times 9. We can have -18 times 1. We can also have 18 times -1. We can have -6 times 3, or we can also have 6 times -3. So these are the different ways in which we can factor -18. Now we're going to look at the product that, let's look at +3, which is the middle term. Now we're going to look at the product that will have factors that add up to +3. So now let's look at the first product. If we take the factors, they add up to -7. We take the next one. The factors add up to +7. We take the next. The factors add up to -17. In this case, the factors add up to +17. -6 plus 3 is -3. So the factors add up to -3. But we want the factors to add up to the coefficient of the middle term, which is +3. And the only one that works is the last one. So 6 plus -3 is 3. So 6 times 3, -3, is -18, which is the product of the coefficient of x squared and the constant. Moreover, 6 plus -3 adds up to the coefficient of the middle term, which is 3. Now this is what we need. We need the factors that follow these rules. So let's look at the expression 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 equals 0. We write the middle term using the factors 6 and -3. So 2x squared, remember that +3 is the sum of 6 and -3. So +3x is the sum of +6x and -3x. Minus 9 equals 0. If you've done everything right, you should be able to factor this expression by grouping. So we're going to group the first two terms and the next two terms and factor each one of them. So let's begin factoring. So we have 2 as a common factor between 2 and 6. And x is also a common factor. We have an x squared and x. So let's just factor out a 2x. So when we factor out a 2x from x squared, remember that 2x squared is 2x times x. When we factor out the 2x, we're left with an x. When we factor out a 2x from a 6x, which is equal to 2 times 3 times x. So when we factor out the 2x, that is 2 and the x, we're left with a 3. So the first two terms, 2x squared plus 6x, is equal to 2x times x plus 3. Now we have to factor the second two terms, making sure that x plus 3 is a factor. So we need to factor out a -3. That's the only common factor, but make sure it's a negative. So that way, what's left over is an x, because -3 times x is a -3x. And when you factor out a -3 from -9, you're left with a +3, because -3 times +3 is a -9, and that's equal to 0. Now notice that The common factor between these two terms now is x plus 3. So we factor out the x plus 3 and we are left with 2x in the first term minus 3 in the second, and that's equal to 0. Now we quickly solve the equation using the zero product rule, which says that if the product of two numbers, that is x plus 3 and 2x minus 3, is equal to 0, then either x plus 3 equals 0 or 2x minus 3 equals 0. So if the product of two numbers is equal to 0, one of the two numbers at least has to equal 0, and that's what helps us solve the quadratic equation. So 2x equals positive 3, x equals 3 halves.